All right, welcome to Computer Programming with Python, Module 1. This is basically a quick introduction that we'll go over. So, Module 1, one thing one to talk about is computer programming. Why should we even learn computer programming? Well, number one, there's tons of jobs. So, if you want plenty of work in industry when you graduate, then it'll you'll find a job very easily. As you can see here, this is just off of Indeed, which is a kind of like a job posting site, like a monster.com. Here's a list of jobs, open jobs, as well as salary. So project manager, 81,000, a software developer, 111,000. So as you can see, there's plenty of jobs and it's great pay. So number one, you'll be able to actually make a good earn a good living. Besides the dollars, though, number one, a lot of creativity, a lot of reasoning and problem solving. So there's a lot of benefit in in computer programming because number one, what you're trying to do is solve problems. So if you have that type of mindset, you're interested in solving problems, then computer programming is right up your alley. You can create things. It's very easy with software. It's not like hardware or building things to where you have to buy materials. You might break things. You can with computer programming, you don't have any of that. You can try out new ideas, see how they work. You're really not going to break anything. And of course, it can be very challenging. So why do we do things? We don't do them because they're easy. We do them because they are difficult. And programming can be very challenging at times. So plenty of reasons to learn programming. But now, why do we learn Python? Well, there's a lot of languages out there: Java, C, C++, whatever, C sharp. So if you go into computer science, you're going to learn the basics like Java, C, and C++. But why should you learn Python? Well, number one, Python's very easy to learn. Okay, so it's an easy programming language that you can pick up. If you know a Java, if you know a C, if you know a C++, well, then you can learn Python. So it's very transferable, if you will. There's a ton of support for Python. You can go on YouTube, you can go on the internet, whatever. You Google anything about Python, and there is somebody posting something on what to learn about Python. Okay, so there's plenty of support out there. But probably one of the biggest things I've seen in so I'm a Java and I'm actually a C and C++ programmer. Learned Java then over the years, and then as I've transitioned to Python, what I have seen as far as the community support isn't necessarily the help in learning. It's actually in Python, there's a module. There is Python code out there to do whatever you're trying to do. Somebody's already written it. And so by just reusing their module, now it might not be the best code that you might want to use. So you'll have to evaluate it and verify it and validate it. But I mean, at the end of the day, though, there's a ton of support out there that comes in the flavor of not only training, but also just code that's already been written. So that's something I've seen. It's kind of like Java. Java's the same way. You have to be really good at basically looking for how to find the code that's already been written. And of course, Python is like Java, it does run anywhere. The other real reason, some other reasons to think about for learning Python is, especially on a network side of the house, if you're doing network administration, working on Linux machines, whatever, most of your machines, your platforms that you're working on, you can run Python. It's very powerful. You can do a lot of things with Python. So as the whole cybersecurity buzz surfaced 8, 10, 12 years ago, one of the things that it's easy transition for computer science folks to get into the cybersecurity realm is command prompt Python programming. And so by doing that, you're already, you can immerse yourself into the cybersecurity realm. Same with robotics. You get your Raspberry Pis, they come equipped with Python already. Your BeagleBones would do the same thing. Your basically the platforms is a Linux platform, so of course installing Python is easy. So, anyways, that's one reason for Python, especially introducing it at the much younger levels, like at middle school, the high schools, and things like that. It's easy to introduce at that time. Now, how are we going to learn how to program? Well, number one, This isn't like some other topics where you could maybe pick up the book, read it, take notes, and things like that. With programming, you have to learn it by doing it. You've got to have hands on the keyboard. So you're going to have a computer, and you're going to have to install some software so that you can run Python. That's just all there is to it. You have to be spending time just not going through the exercises that you're going to see in these slides and what I'm going to talk about. You've got to spend time outside of that working on additional problems. That's just all there is to it. Okay. All right. So the audience, who can do this? Anybody. This is meant for anybody. And what tools do you need? Well, you need a computer running Windows, Linux, Mac, whatever, or the Apple operating system. Um, So anything like that'll do. But you will need a Python development environment. And for Python, it's called the Integrated Development Environment, or IDLE. The L is just the L in the word development is all that is. So, and other languages that you might be familiar with, like if you build on the Arduino, then maybe you've used the Arduino IDE, or you might have used the Eclipse development environment, or if you're programming in C on the desktop, well, you might have used Eclipse for that. If you're programming in Java, you might have used Eclipse, or you might have used NetBeans, or you might have used JetBrains. I mean, there's different development environments. For Python and for these discussions, I'm going to use IDLE. I'm actually, when I'm doing Python programming outside of these discussions and lectures, I use PyCharm. PyCharm is very powerful. I've really come to like it, and to me it's very easy. And so why don't I use it for these discussions? Because I think there's a learning curve as far as folks getting up to speed on using the tool to actually program. And since these discussions are really meant for folks that are just immersing themselves into programming, I didn't want the tool itself to make things more complicated. So IDLE's very simple to get up and running, and so we're going to go with that. I have another video on installing IDLE and getting your machine up and running to write Python. So go check that out, and then you can come back to this spot in the video. Okay, let's just refresh our memory. When we talked about especially the Arduino platform and the C program, what we're doing is writing computer programs, basically a set of instructions for the computer to carry out, to execute. Okay, what we're writing is called a program, sometimes called software. All right, almost all electronic devices need to have some kind of software. Any computers, your cell phones, GPS, your watches these days, your video game, whatever, they all have software embedded in them. Okay, so it's like you and your subconscious, as well as your thoughts and things. It's like your program that's running you. All hardware devices need to have software. Okay, the programming language that we're using to communicate with the electronic device, the laptop, the desktop, or whatever it might be, the computer programming language is called Python. Okay, it was named back in the 70s after Monty Python's TV show. If anybody's familiar with that type of comedy in the TV shows. All right, installing Python, again, that's another video. Once you do install Python, then you can go open it up, and I'm going to open it up right now. And what the first thing that's going to open up is going to be what we call the interactive shell. So let's get it up and running. Get it in screen. This is the interactive shell right here. And so these three greater than signs right here, that is called the prompt. Okay, or this is where your cursor will show up. And so when you type, this is where your commands will appear. Okay, so the three greater than signs is the prompt in the interactive shell. So this first thing that opens up is your interactive shell. When you write Python code, the thing that interprets the code that you write and executes on the computer is what we call this shell. This is the interpreter, the interactive shell. When we write code, it interprets the Python code and it executes it. Okay, so if I was to say something like print hello, then basically as soon as I hit enter, I type this in, I hit enter, the computer, the interpreter, will interpret this Python statement, print as a command, and I send it a string, a variable, that a literal that is of type string, and it's the word hello. So the interpreter interpreted that and it printed that word to the screen. So if I would have said something else like then it would have printed my name. So whatever string that you send this command, it prints it to the screen. This is the job of the interpreter. It interprets the Python code that you write. Okay. Now, what we need to get out of the habit of is writing our Python code here at the command line, at the prompt. We're not going to be doing that. Okay, you can do that, but we're not going to be doing that. And we'll see how we're going to do it here in a minute. But anyways, if you type something incorrect, then you'll pretty much get red text that comes back that will give you a stack dump, as well as it'll give you the type of error that has occurred. We're not going to worry about the types of errors right now, but just recognize if you do something wrong, you're going to get some red text that comes back. As you can see, this jibber jabber that I typed, the interpreter doesn't know what to do with it. Okay, it doesn't understand it, so it threw the error at you. Alright, so again, at the prompt we can type commands and all that good stuff. The command that we typed was the print command. It's a Python command, and what it does is it's a function. We know it's a function because it has the parentheses, the opening parenthesis and then the closing parenthesis here. And then what we do is we send the command basically a string, and we call this item that's inside the parentheses the argument to the function. Okay. Now, okay, well, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, you can use single quotation marks or you can use double quotation marks. So, for example, this is the single quotation mark, or you can use the double quotation mark. So I could have said print hello, and it prints hello to the screen. Okay, or I could have said print double quotation, and it does the same thing. Okay. All right, now this is where I want to talk about we're not going to be writing our code from the prompt. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a Python file. We're going to be putting our code in that file, and then we're going to be telling the shell or the interpreter, the interactive shell, the interpreter, to execute our file. Okay, so here's the steps to do it. It's written right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you here now. I'm going to go up to, in the shell, I'm going to go to File. I'm going to say New File, and it's going to open up a window for me. Let's resize it so I keep it within the... I have to work on that. Anyways, so here's my file right here, and I can type anything that I want in here. All right, now again, I'm going to get an error because it doesn't understand that jibber jabber I just talked. But this is my file. First thing I want to do is I want to say File, and I want to save as. Now you want to make sure that you know where you're saving things. Okay, so this pops up the Explorer window. I can navigate. Here's my the path in my file directory. I can navigate where I want it to be stored. I created a folder called Workspace. So I go into here and I'm going to say first Python example. It will automatically save it with a .py extension. All Python files end with a .py extension. So there's first Python example. And so in here in the file, I'm going to say print, I'll say this, hello Python programmers. I'll hit enter and drop down a line, print, this is Marcus. Running a Python file. Okay. So basically in this file I have 3 Python commands. I do not need spaces between the lines. If you want spaces, you can have spaces. It's up to you. That white space is ignored by the interpreter, so it doesn't matter. But I have 3 Python commands right here. I want to go to File and save my file. Now when I want to execute this, I go up here and I say Run Module. And then you will see over here in the interpreter, in the shell, where it said from the prompt, restart, and it's running this file right here. First python.py, and then here's my output. It's in blue text. So this shell, interactive shell right here, executed this file, this Python file right here. And I see my results here in the interactive shell. Alright, that's how you can use the Python interactive shell that comes installed by default. You can create a Python file, write your code in the file, and then you have your interactive shell actually execute it. Okay, until next time.